Hey guys, thank you for your patience about our seeds in a bag. I know you guys have been waiting, and some of you have actually asked, what are these for? And I think we've been telling you, wait till Friday. So, we are going to do an experiment with the seeds that you have in a bag. Now, actually, I will tell you, I filmed this video already in its entirety once, so I'm sort of like dismembering my bag as we speak. But in your Ziploc bag, you found a bunch of stuff, right? Including stickers and paper schnibbles, and a bunch of seeds, right? Which look like this. There were quite a few seeds in there. And a paper towel, which no big deal if you didn't save the paper towel, but it was actually for this experiment. So, when we do experiments, we as a class and scientists, everyone, when they do experiments, they ask a question. They are wanting to answer a question. Now, the thing about an experiment is generally we do it because we don't know the answer. We might have an idea, right? And our idea is based on the research we did and what we know, and that's an educated guess, really, and that's our hypothesis, which is what we think is going to happen. But the first thing every experiment starts with is a question. So our question is, can you grow quinoa plants from grocery store seeds? Now you'll notice all of my letters have capitals, because the question in a lot of experiments is really like the title. So that's why I wrote capitals, because it's like my title. Now, in answering the question, as I'm formulating my hypothesis and sort of creating the environment that I'm going to test this in, I did some research. That's what a scientist does, is they sort of research their question. That the background knowledge helps you formulate a hypothesis and also just gives you an idea like how to structure your setup. So what I found, and actually I did some of this research before because of the South America botany lesson, right? I wanted to know about quinoa. How did it grow? Where did it grow? It's a cold weather crop. So generally they say that it's best to actually, if you're going to grow it outside, start in March and do it indoors. It grows to be 4 to 6 feet tall, sometimes 8, but that's rare. So about the size, between the size of you guys and me approximately, when it's full grown. And it actually grows better at higher altitude. So I believe, as I recall, quinoa grew at some of the higher points of South America along the western coast. I'm not totally sure. I'd have to look to be sure, but I think that's why it grows better there. Also in generally cooler regions, so places that are less than 90 degrees Fahrenheit, as they're high, which we actually in the South Bay do generally stay less than 90 degrees, and also places that have cool nights. So those are sort of the ideal growing conditions for quinoa, which is why an indoor environment really works for this kind of plant. So that's the question, that's some background. If you want to look up a picture of quinoa, that would be a cool thing. Usually the flowers are reddish purplish. So yes, then we're getting to the fun part, our materials, right? So you have this plastic bag. It had a bunch of other stuff in it. You've probably used it by now. If you haven't used it by now, don't worry. You weren't required to use those things, but that was just to give you some materials for creating your toilet paper tube, which you already did, which I'll show you mine in a minute. But you need a plastic bag, a paper towel, and the seeds. Every experiment write-up will have a list of materials. That way, if another scientist wants to do your experiment, they'll know what you used. Then, it's also important that you have a procedure, so the step-by-step of what you did to create your experiment. Again, if another scientist wanted to recreate your experiment, they should be able to based on your procedure. So step 1, fold the paper towel into fourths. Mine was smaller than yours, and so I folded it into fourths, but then it seemed too small, so then I went ahead and just folded it in half. Then, so fourths, fold it in half again. Then wet the paper towel completely. Now I also had gotten this wet prior to the filming, just so I didn't have to go run to the sink. So you wet it completely. Then you place 10 seeds in the middle of the wet paper towel. So the amount of seeds I gave you, each one of these teeny, tiny spheres is a seed, right? So you have way more than 10. I probably wouldn't put all of them in there. If you have another bag and you want to do another one with 10 more seeds. If you want to do a bag with black seeds and another bag with red seeds, that's fine. But really I would put about 10. You don't want to overcrowd it. Okay to use the other ones for any sort of experiment you want, but you're going to put about 10 seeds in. So I counted them out. I have a couple more than 10. I think I have exactly 12. Then you're going to fold it. Cover the seeds, so that's what I mean. So you place them in the middle and then sort of fold the edges over and put it in the plastic bag. Now, I do say here seal the plastic bag. I actually am not going to seal it entirely. I think it's probably better to get some airflow in there. In a real greenhouse environment, it's bigger, right? The air is circulating. What really makes something a greenhouse is that it is see-through. So actually in the Midwest, in places where it gets cold, greenhouses are places where plants can grow and they're protected from the weather. So really all a greenhouse is an enclosure that's clear, that allows sunlight to get in, and what a greenhouse does is it keeps a regulated temperature for your plants, and also so that regulates their heat and humidity as well. So allows it to be like a more moist environment than maybe it would be otherwise. So we've got our mini greenhouse. I am going to keep mine open for some air circulation. You could seal yours. Maybe mine doesn't sprout because I kept it open and you sealed yours and it does. That I will leave up to you. So that's a variable in an experiment that really, if we were doing this for a professional write-up for a science magazine, we would want to decide for sure, is it best to seal it or not seal it, and why? And we would all want to be consistent. This is just for fun. Let's see if these seeds sprout. So that's your experiment. The main resource I used was this website online where a woman actually tried this, and she said that hers did sprout, and it took about 2 to 4 days. So by the end of the weekend, you might see a little bit of sprouting going on. So I would say by Monday, Tuesday, we should know if it's going to work or not. I will tell you guys, I genuinely do not know if this is going to work, which really makes it a true experiment. I don't know. Now, one of the things I did also read is that for the seeds to sprout, they can be unwashed, and they can be either unwashed or pre-washed, but the only thing is they can't be polished. So you'll see my little notes here. I'm not totally sure what a polished quinoa seed looks like, so it's probably some process they go through, but I don't know what polished means or what it would look like. So I'm not sure if the quinoa that I have is polished. So I did read the ingredients: organic quinoa white, organic quinoa red, and organic quinoa black. So it looks like in the seeds, most of the seeds are white. It looks like the red quinoa is rare, and then there's some black. So if you find a red one, you're special. There aren't so many red ones in here. Most of them are white. But by looking at it, I don't know if they're polished or not. So I genuinely don't know if these seeds are going to sprout, which is sort of the fun of it. Now, the other thing is we are going to do this experiment multiple times. So please save your baggie. You don't have to save your paper towel, but please save your baggie. This is a nice little greenhouse. We like to reuse these things when possible. So we're going to use it again. I would like to invite each one of you to go ahead and find a loquat from the tree, kind of a wrinkly loquat. And you actually can plant the loquat. Well, you can plant it if you want. It probably will sprout if you have some dirt you want to go in. But you can use your greenhouse, and maybe next week on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, I guess, to give this time, we'll see if we can get the loquat seed to sprout in our little greenhouse. So maybe the quinoa doesn't work, but the loquat will. And then maybe the following week, we will put some other seeds in your goodie bag. So please don't get rid of your bag. Even though you might have Ziploc bags at home, it's not good for the world if we keep using them and throwing them away. So use the same one for these little experiments. All right, so then the last thing, so procedure, and then the next thing, which I didn't write on the board, is a hypothesis. Because I didn't want you guys to get stuck on what my hypothesis is. So really, it's your educated guess. Do you think it's going to grow? Do you not think it's going to grow, and why? So I am going to ask you to post on our Google Classroom your hypothesis. So Yes, you think it's going to sprout. No, you think it's not going to sprout, and why you think that. And I actually, my last video, I gave you what I thought, but I don't. Redoing this video, because it wasn't because of my hypothesis, it was another reason, but redoing this video, I'm deciding not to tell you what I think. So I want to know what you think and why. I would also encourage you not to wait to see what your classmate thinks before you write your answer. Really, really decide, do you think it's going to grow or not, and why do you think that? And don't base it on what your classmate says that you think is really smart in the area of botany. You are all smart in many areas. So this is what you think. And I actually am totally torn. I don't know. I mean, I do have if I had to pick one, I have one and I have why, but I could be wrong. So on this post, please post your hypothesis, which is your educated guess with your reasons why. And then the last part of the experiment, once it was done, right, we'll give it 2 to 4 days, probably by Tuesday, would be the results. So did it grow, did it not? And why or why not? Okay? That is it for our science experiment. I did ask you to turn in your toilet paper tube, which no longer probably looks like a toilet paper tube. This is what mine looks like. I had a couple students ask me today if I decorated mine yet, which is a little funny because I hadn't even fully picked the toilet paper off of mine. So no, mine was not decorated yet. Now it is. I actually just cut apart a bag I had because I like this hot pink color. And I also decorated my base. So just so you guys know, this is what's to come. We are actually going to hot glue your base and your cardboard together. And you will have a nice pencil holder. So if I put a marker in here, that's fine. It's not very wide, so I could stuff it really full. And maybe I could fit 3 markers in there, but probably a small set of colored pencils would work, your work pencils, but this is really to sort of help you keep your workstation organized. So wherever it is that you're storing your things, now you have a nice little pencil holder in which to store them. I did also see online some people that actually took sort of a bunch of tubes and then they did varying heights. So if you did like a paper towel tube, and you could make a whole organizer out of this. So I would invite you, if you want to add on to this or make another one. If you would like to make another one and you need us to save toilet paper tubes for you, we're happy to do that. Just tell us. You can also save them at home. And if you don't have hot glue and you want us to glue it for you, we're happy to do that. So that's actually why I had you turn it in, so that we could glue it and make you a pencil holder. And with that, I am going to have you find a spot for music. And Hank is outside singing already. And I know the classical music does not involve singing. And actually this week's feature composition is Minuet and Trio from Ein Klein Nachtmusik. Do you remember the name of the composer? Yes, I know you guys remember. It is Mozart. Mozart composed his Minuet and Trio for the entertainment of his audience, wealthy people and royalty. He knew they liked the musical design in which the beginning and the middle were different and the ending had a little bit of both. So that is it. Find a spot, relax, enjoy some music. A little fun fact is I used to play classical music in my classroom in middle school, kind of to help with focus, sometimes like we do in our classroom, except they didn't really like it so much. They wanted music with words, which was very distracting. And one of my students always would tell me to stop playing Mozart. So that was the only classical composer he knew. So every time I had on classical music, he said, stop playing Mozart. And it became sort of an ongoing joke. And the cool thing is that I knew all of you guys knew better from our classical music mornings. So today is going to be a good day. I can and I will. Happy Friday.